Hi everyone. Before we even start, I would like to thank all of my subscribers, old and new, and huge thanks to Seppo from Seaside Garage to shouting out my silly little channel. In today's video, I'm servicing Mitsubishi alternator out of my XM. The same kind of alternators are used in a wide variety of vehicles, so this might be helpful for non-XM owners as well. And there are timestamps in this video, so you can skip wherever you want. My camera work was so bad at the removal that I'm using as little footage of that as possible. The alternator itself is held by 3 bolts, and I did remove that upper alternator bracket, but that might be unnecessary. The alternator comes off through the wheel arch, and to get access you need to remove wheel liner and this subframe support bracket. And now we have one alternator ready to go to the workbench. Here's the alternator and the parts that I'll be using. If you are after the regulator and the rectifier, here's part numbers for those. Let's just quickly pause here for a moment because there are at least 2 different front bearings for these alternators, so make sure which one fits to your vehicle. I marked the housings and the stator to make future assembly easier. Now you want to remove the front housing and the rotor simply by tapping the housing with the hammer, and make sure that the stator stays with the back housing. This slip ring is in excellent condition considering the mileage it has done. This bearing was stuck to the rotor, so I unscrewed packing plate and of course I round a few screws. The bearing itself was in good condition, but sadly I had to weld few nuts on it for the bearing puller. The rear bearing came off much easier and I used small nuts as shims. I'm giving quick clean for the slip ring with sandpaper and Scotch-Brite. I gently remove the dust cover to add more grease to the bearing, and I'm going to do this for every bearing. At this point I realized that something is wrong, because rotor wouldn't spin at all. Then I found out that I have bought too narrow bearing. My local part supplier couldn't get me the correct bearing, so I had to buy this 1mm thicker one and hope that it will fit. I also replaced packing plate screws with new M5 Allen head screws. Now we can start servicing the rest of the alternator. And this screw is why you want to keep back housing and the stator together at the start of the teardown. You need to pry gently the stator to gain access to this last screw. Now let's remove these old worn out brushes. Some Mitsubishis have different brushes and they are easier to replace, but it's not the case with the XM. This must be the trickiest part of this process. It took me a lot of time to get these new brush wires through the old springs. Using a piece of thread made installing these brushes so much easier. Then add bit of seam seal for isolation. I installed the new bearing straight to the housing with this long socket. And by the way, don't forget to add this disc after the bearing. Just line up the markings and then tighten the housing bolts. And here we have one refurbished alternator ready to go. My camera ran out of memory during installation, but I take this time just to say that my personal opinion is that I would rather service an old good quality alternator than buy a refurbished or worse a remanufactured ones. Huge thanks for watching this video, and I hope that this video was helpful.